Now, the American Vice President JD Vance has warned about the end of an era of uncontested American dominance. Now, Vance hailed the Trump administration's foreign policy stance and also spoke on the evolving global power dynamics. During an address to the Naval Academy graduates, the Vice President said that the United States was a superpower without any peer for a brief time following the collapse of the Soviet Union. Vance further cautioned of the impending threats from China, Russia and other nations that are determined to beat the United States in every domain imaginable.
In the wake of the Cold War, America enjoyed a mostly unchallenged command of the commons, airspace, sea, space, and cyberspace. But the era of uncontested U.S. dominance is over. Today we face serious threats in China, Russia, and other nations determined to beat us in every single domain.
The Vice President also lauded the U.S. President Donald Trump's generational shift in foreign policy, while also criticizing past U.S. presidents for meddling in foreign countries' affairs.
Past leaders sent our service members on mission after mission with no exit strategy, no end in sight, and with little articulation for the American people or for the warfighters about what we were doing.
Now, JD Vance has said that the Trump administration is in fact focused on widening the technological edge between the United States and its adversaries. He further said that the United States must send troops to the battlefield with the right tools. All right, now joining us in the broadcast, we've got Ms. Adele Nazarian, who's a senior media fellow at the Gold Institute for International Strategy. Ms. Nazarian, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, this is a very interesting comment that's been made by no less an individual than the Vice President of the United States of America, where he says that the era of unfettered dominance of the United States is now over. What is he trying to convey here? What message does it send to the people of the United States of America, where the Republican Party under Trump is trying to make America great again?
Great to be on with you again. I think what he's doing is giving an advanced warning. He is telling America and the world what the next move is. And I think that on the global stage, we saw the reason for this is that, of course, China and Russia have joined the dominating forces where the U.S. once held a unilateral edge into a multilateral, multipolar world. And I think that's the reason for the strategic meetings during the Gulf visit. Everything is strategic. Everything has a purpose. And I think that the way they're handling it is really smart. The U.S. relations with the UAE strengthened, the U.S. relations with Saudi Arabia strengthened, the U.S. relations with Qatar obviously strengthened, and the undeniable strongest bond between the U.S. and Israel. Of course, there's been a bit of a rift between the U.S. and, between Trump and Netanyahu over certain things recently, but that's a long-standing relationship. But I happen to think also, if I may add, that this is only not over the military alliances and defense strategies. I think what he meant by the era of unfettered, uncontested U.S. dominance actually has a lot also to do with AI and quantum computing technology, emerging technologies that the U.S. obviously been leading the command with, but that other nations like China have done an excellent job also in terms of having these game-changing technologies, incorporating them into their foreign policy and into domestically as well.
That's an interesting observation that you've made. Now, besides hard power, the United States also has what is known as soft power, through which it exerts its influence. Do you think JD Vance is perhaps also alluding to the possibility that with the rise of China, Russia, India and other nations, that probably the soft power of the Americans is probably also being contested?
Absolutely not. I think the soft power will always remain. America is America. I know that Vice President Vance mentioned that there was a turn away from what the founding fathers had originally, envisioned in terms of the foreign policy approaches. I mean, keep in mind, they are now the establishment. Of course, what he's saying is counter to what the establishment has done in the past. But I can say this. On a global scale, I think that statecraft and the art of diplomacy has definitely evolved. I think that in terms of soft power, though, there is an undeniable soft power and influence that President Trump carries everywhere he goes, and his influence, ability to deal make, and ability to influence, the power of his speech. I think that's soft power in and of itself. And at the end of the day, even with its ebbs and flows, up and downs, America is still America, and it's still the dream for so many, despite even what we're going through right now at home. So I think the soft power element is certainly a constant.
I think you've summed it up really well there. Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Adele Nazarian, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.